to get to our quiz later on. But first I want to introduce myself. I am Terry. I'm the new Cindy. I have met some of you, but I've not met many of you. So if I've not met you, welcome. It's been a wonderful 4 months since I've been here. I've been in hospice volunteer management for about 15 years, and it's just an incredible honor to help you help patients. I just think that that's such an amazing thing to be able to do. So I'd like to introduce our other new member of our team, and that is Milena Morio. She's at the back of the room here. Milena is our Complementary Services Volunteer Coordinator, and she is over the care center and also working on developing programs for complementary therapy, such as healing touch, aromatherapy, and so on. And I know many of you know Laura as well. Laura is over our home care group and does many, many other things for us. So welcome to you all. There are seats up here in the front too if you need to come up here. So I want to start out by thanking you, because to me you're all superheroes. That seems odd, but superheroes, we have the capacity to be a superhero. In order to become one, you just have to find that special gift or interest and use it for the good. You don't have to wear a cape, but that's what each and every one of you do. You find your talents, you find your strengths, and through that, that's how we are able to provide such exceptional care for the patients and the families that we serve. So we're going to do some departmental updates real quick. You already met the new team members, but the big news is that we're moving. For many of you are used to walking that long journey down the hallway. You don't have to do that anymore. We're going to be right up at the front. When you come in the administrative doors, Laura, Milena, and the volunteer workroom are going to be to the office on the right, and then I will be in the office right before here, right before into the care center. So we're going to be very close, which will be very nice for you. You don't have to walk so far to log in, to sign in. And many of the other, we look to probably move about the 20th of October, but we'll let you know. If you come there and we're not there, you'll find us up front. So we do have some upcoming events to tell you about. We have our Light Up the Life. How many of you have gone to the Light Up the Life event? Great. Is it great fun? I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been, so I'm looking forward to it this year. So if you are interested in going, volunteers can buy tickets at a discounted rate of $75 each. You can go to our development department and they can help you with that. So I've heard it's a great time. We also have a couple of screenings. Have any of you read the book Be Mortal? It's a great book if you've not read it. Well, now they've made it into a movie, so there's a lot of great information there. We are having a screening that will be on November the 9th, so if you'd like to join that information's in the volunteer office. And then also, fall's a favorite time of year for many, and it wouldn't be complete without cider mill. So this year we're having a Hospice Appreciation Day, and you're welcome to join from Harry J. Will at the Three Cedar Farms, and that is on October the 23rd. Okay. So calls for help. We thought this would be a good place to start with a room full of volunteers, right? So we do have some couple of items that we do need some help with. The first is our caregiver supper. This has been an event that's been ongoing for many, many years, and the gal that heads it up, Donna Beamish, is ready to turn over the mitts. So if anybody's interested in heading up that project, please see Milena, and that's to coordinate who's going to be bringing the dishes and whatnot. We also have a need for home care volunteers. Many times it's very easy to get volunteers in the care center because this is such a beautiful facility, but we have a lot of need for our home care volunteers, even for just somebody to go sit at a nursing home and spend time with the patient to read to them and to help them make their journey a little more comfortable and personal. And we are going to turn it over to Helen and Melanie in a minute, maybe. Your seat's right up here. Yes, oh, right up here.
If you have a seat next to you, raise your hand so other people.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Helen Baumforth. I'm the events coordinator here at Angela Hospice. I handle all of those special events that Terry was talking about, the Tree of Life, Light Up Life, the walk, the gala, the auctions, the ladies event, and new this year, the men's event. What I wanted to talk about today real briefly is the Tree of Life event that is coming up. How many of you here are familiar with the Tree of Life? A lot of you, wonderful. So I'm going to give a quick update on what the Tree of Life is for those that didn't raise their hand, and then I'm going to have my appeal to you. So the Tree of Life used to be at two separate locations. It used to be at Laurel Park, and at Westland. And last year we decided to move the second location to here at the Care Center. So people get a notice in the mail if they want to make a donation in honor of a loved one, and we hang their name on an angel on the tree. So last year when we moved it to the Care Center, we weren't sure what kind of response we'd get, and we got an amazing response. We had a lot of people that really wanted their family member's name or whoever it was represented back here at the Care Center. So that was a great choice that we made. In addition to that, at Laurel Manor, we now have two locations at Laurel Manor. The one location is down by Carson's Court, and the second location was supposed to start out as just sort of a table that we would give directions to and say, oh, if you want to donate, just head down that way. Well, we got so much response at that location that we ended up putting trees up there, and they were filled very quickly. And that's by Santa. And we found out from that, having that second location, we got a lot of response from families, and we made it a little more family friendly. We had stickers and crayons and those types of things down there, because when that line for Santa starts, they're right in front of our table. So it's a great opportunity for us to interact, and as many of you know, people share their stories there and talk about their loved ones. So we'll be doing that again. Where I'm coming to you again, Melanie and I just did the math, and we have to cover over 300 shifts in that month. So as you can imagine, it's very, very taxing. We are going to use the Sign Up Genius again. How many of you used Sign Up Genius last year? Okay, so what Sign Up Genius is, and it doesn't mean you can't help if you don't use Sign Up Genius, but what we're going to try to do is, if you have not given us your email address yet, Melanie's going to be in the back of the room at the end if you could give us your email address. And the way Sign Up Genius works is you just input your name, and Melanie will send you an email. And what's nice about it is it shows you all of the shifts that will be available from the day we start until the day we end. And you can go in there and say, I want to do every Tuesday from 10 to 4. And it will automatically populate your name into there, and then you're signed up every Tuesday 10 to 4. You also can see other people that are signed in. So if your friend is working, you might want to say, oh, I'll take that shift with my friend Susie, or whatever the case may be. And also, if let's say you have a doctor's appointment that comes up, you can unmark that time for you, and Melanie will get an email that says, Susie Smith cannot make her shift on Thursday at 2 p.m. So then she knows we have to double check that, but it will also repopulate. So if you go back to that, look at that calendar, you'll notice that it's open. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's very user-friendly. Would those of you that used it agree it's very user-friendly? Yes. Yes, okay, good. And if you have any questions, certainly, you know, Melanie, yes?
I just wanted to mention to those that are not real computer oriented, that when you do sign in, you do need to put in a password. So remember your password.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to write that stuff down. Yes?
You accidentally said Laurel Manor, and it's
Laurel Park, sorry. I do that all the time, because our events are at Laurel Manor, but it's Laurel Park Mall. Thank you for making that correction. We will, like I said, we will make phone calls if need be. If you don't have email, please let Melanie know, but we're really going to try to use email as much as possible. It's also a time that you can imagine that the phone is ringing off the hook here, and for Melanie to have to call every single person the day before to remind them gets very, very taxing. So if you haven't done a Tree of Life shift, if we encourage you to try to do it this year, I will tell you it's extremely humbling. You have very interesting stories when you work it. And I will tell you guys this, it is our biggest fundraiser of the year. But a lot of people don't realize that. So the Light Up a Life Gala, ladies event, all of those make money, which is great. But last year we took in almost $90,000 from the Tree of Life. And that's with your help. We have no overhead for that event. It costs us nothing. So if you have done a shift, we beg you to please consider another shift, or 2 or 3. And if you haven't done one, please give it an opportunity. Okay? Any questions?
And if you sign up for a shift, you can bring a friend.
Oh, yes.
We need one Angela Hospice employee there.
So what we are making one modification this year. So instead of it being 2 Angela Hospice employees, volunteers, if you want to come and bring your daughter, or you want to come and bring your spouse, that is acceptable, as long as one of the representatives at the table is an Angela Hospice employee. And the other thing I want to mention real quick too is when this all comes out in a few weeks, because I mentioned there's 2 different locations, make sure you do look where you're signing up. If you sign up for Carson's Court, or if you sign up for the Santa location. Because a lot of times, a lot of people came in, parked near Carson's, thought they were working Carson's, and it's a long trek down that hallway to get to the other side. So if you're going to work the Santa, you want to park over by Max and Irma's, that's not there anymore, Bar Louie. And if you work Carson's Court, the best is to work Carson's Court. And then we do also do the tree setup. Those trees, there's 8 of them that get put up on Thursday, November 17th. We could use as much manpower as possible. God bless Bart. He comes and he brings all that. Last year we unloaded it in freezing cold rain. And the first year I did it, it took us until about 3 o'clock in the morning to do it because I didn't know the magnitude of this event. Well, now I know we need a lot of help. So if you can also pencil into your head, November 17th, it's a Thursday night that we'll be setting up at Laurel Manor. We take up all those trees have to be assembled, they all have to be lit, they all have to be coordinated, plugged in, the angels have to get hung. It's quite an event, monumentous event. Yes?
Just another thing, only because I use Genius all the time for a lot of the events that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
When a person is going to bring a friend, are they going to write in that name so that check mark shows 2 checks?
Yes, that's a great point again, thank you. And I appreciate you saying that because I've used it so often, it does come very easily to those that use it. So if you're going to bring a friend, check the slot, the 2 time slots. So it says Helen and Susie, and we don't have to necessarily have their last name, or you can even put your name in twice if you want to indicate that that's what you're doing, that you're filling both those slots. That make sense? Deb?
Sometimes you can volunteer, but can't do the whole 4 hours or an hour.
It's just gonna be to depend on the schedule that we get from the mall. Some slots are 2, some are 3, some are 4. It's 30 days of putting in different shifts, and they have different hours at the mall, so it just depends. But
If you can only do a 2-hour shift, I think we switched it last year, we tried to make them 3-hour shifts. Because 2 hours seems a little too short, 4 hours seems a little long. So we'll look at that again, but to Melanie's point, when we first open it, the mall doesn't even open until 10, I think. But then when those Christmas hours start and they open at 8 and they stay open until 11 o'clock, we have to have it manned because obviously we want people to see us.
And the other thing,
Yes.
end of the night, the cash.
We'll talk about that at the actual Tree of Life meeting because we're going to have one of those on November 11th. So any of you that want to volunteer for Tree of Life, mark that in your calendar. November 11th we'll have a meeting, and then the setup will actually be November 17th.
and you'll see it in the volunteer newsletters.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all your help very much.
Hear what Melanie said.
You'll see the meeting. Always read your volunteer newsletter. Always read your volunteer newsletter because that has so much information. A lot of times volunteers forget to read it. But you'll have the meeting. It's going to say there's a meeting on November 11th. So look for that in your newsletter, okay?
Thank you, Helen. Melanie? All right, so are we ready to get down to the meat of today? Talk about the OSHA stuff? So do y'all know why we have to do this every year? Yeah, it's a government compliance. Do you know that this is the only sector of volunteerism that is required to do this? That the government mandates? That's how special you all are. So, I know, doesn't it make you feel better? So we're going to just go ahead and get started here. Laura and Milena are handing some information, your quiz. So we're going to talk today about infection control, ergonomics, emergency preparedness, workplace safety, elder abuse, and corporate compliance. So we'll get started on infection control. We use universal precautions, and what this means is that we treat everybody as potentially infectious. So this means that we are taking the highest standard of preparation. And these precautions take foresight in planning, because if we anticipate that everybody's potentially infectious, we're going to protect ourselves in that way. So we're going to talk about first the transmission of bloodborne pathogens. In order to transmit, you have to have contact with a person's blood or bodily fluid that may contain blood. The mucous membranes, such as the eyes, mouth, nose, broken skin, contaminated sharps or needles, bodily fluids, all except sweat, are potentially infectious per the CDC. So what happens if you're exposed to those fluids? You are to wash your exposed skin with soap and running water, rinse out your eyes and other mucous membranes with running water, get medical help if you're in the care center, notify a nurse. Know your exposure control plan, which consists of those items, and then make sure that you let us know that you had exposure. Now all of this sounds kind of scary, doesn't it? You're all ready to run for the doors. The chances is that it's very minimal that you will come into contact with anybody who has contact precautions, and we'll talk about that in a moment. If you do know that you are going to be working with somebody who is potentially infectious, make sure that you are using gloves. In home and in care setting, we have gloves available at all times. Again, universal precautions, we're going to treat the body and blood and body fluids as though they're contaminated. And always make sure that you stay up to date with your TB screening, either your test or your questionnaire if you get an annual x-ray. And make sure that you get your flu shots annually. And just so happens today we will be having a flu shot clinic. So volunteers, as I said earlier, it's going to be a very minimal chance that you're going to be exposed to anybody with contact precautions. So if you're working in the care center, you'll know that the doors are identified with contact precautions. And if you're in a home care setting or in a nursing home and a patient is on contact precautions, you will not be interacting with those patients. For volunteers who are in the care center who are interested in working with patients who have contact precautions, then there's going to be a separate training for that. And that will be conducted by a nurse, and you will be taught how to use personal protection equipment such as a mask and a gown and things of that nature. So if you are interested in that level of direct care, please let me know, and we will connect you with our nurse to make sure you get that education. So in order for infection to control, because we're in the season right now of oversharing, we must have a germ that causes a virus or a bacteria or a fungi or a parasite, a source, a place for it to live and multiply. It could be a surface of a tabletop. It could be a surface of a door handle. We need an exit, place for germs to find a way out, such as sneezing or coughing or through bodily fluids. A host, a person who is susceptible and does not have a resistance or immunity to the germ. And an entry, a way for it to enter in, such as mucous membranes. So what we want to do, the number one way to protect ourselves against infectious disease is washing our hands. And so I'm sure that we take this for granted, that we all do a very quick hand wash. That's pretty common. However, it's one of the most important ways that you can protect yourself, so you should take it as one of the most important steps in your patient care. Make sure that you are washing at least 40 to 60 seconds. And that might be a little bit longer than what you've heard in the past. Usually it's between 50 and 30 seconds. But take that time to really make sure that the water is hot, that you're lathering well. And usually what I do during this time is I take it to have a moment of mindfulness. I think that's maybe a term that you've all heard of lately. And we're so busy with the day-to-day or thinking about the next thing that we need to do that it's not so often that we stand present in this moment. So when I'm washing my hands, one of the things that I do is I do a mindful meditation about gratitude. As I'm washing my hands, I'm grateful for the fact that I'm able to stand at the sink. I can turn on my own water. I can wash my own hands. I don't need someone to do that for me. These types of things, that will help take you through that 40 to 60 seconds. Now, if you do not have the access to soap and water, then you would use hand sanitizer, and make sure that after you leave the facility, or if you're using hand sanitizer in between patients, which is what you should be doing if you don't have access to running water, then make sure that you use running water and soap afterward, because that is the most effective method. So remember, when we're coughing, we don't want to overshare the season. If you yourself feel ill, if you have a cough, a persistent cough, if you feel feverish, if you have the runny nose, what should you do? Stay home, yes. Who are we worried about protecting? Patients, exactly. I know sometimes it hurts to hear it's not about you, but you have a great immune system. Our patients do not. So what might be a pesky little cough to you could really be a life-altering component for the patient. So we really have to be mindful of that. Of course, always make sure that you notify us if you're not able to make one of those visits. Okay, any questions on infection control? My throat's starting to get sore and scratchy just from thinking about it. So we're going to talk now about safety and accident prevention. Of course, again, being proactive, we just want to be mindful. Many accidents happen because people make careless mistakes. We're in a hurry to do something. We don't see a rug that's not laid out properly. We trip and fall and so on. So the incidents that occur are not consistent with the routine operation of Angela Hospice. So this is an incident that was a not planned occurrence. If you are injured, make sure that you go see your doctor. You take steps to take care of that, and then let us know immediately if you have been harmed or if you feel that a patient has been harmed in any sort of incident. So here we go. So now we're going to talk about back safety. I think there's probably not one of us here that hasn't had that back tweak from a twist or a turn at one time in our life. So one of the reasons that we do this is because back injuries are the #1 injury that we face here at Angela Hospice. So a reminder when lifting, make sure that you stand close to your load, bend at your knees, tighten your abdominal muscles, keep your back straight, lift with your legs, and get help if needed. Now, most of you are not going to be assisting with patients and moving patients, but if you are, always get assistance. Volunteers are never to attempt to move a patient on their own. You will either be assisted by a nurse or a hospice aide in the care center. If you're using mechanical transfer devices, always make sure that, again, you're in assisting role. And for non-patient lifting, always remember that the back safety tips. So this will come in handy this Christmas season when you're updating and pulling out all your Christmas decorations. Remember to keep those loads close. If you are with a patient, and many times, the best plans, but a patient's not going to know from day to day if they're feeling weaker, and then we have those patients who don't want to admit that they're feeling weaker and that they can no longer walk down the hallway. So those are the ones that we're always looking out for. So sometimes these falls do happen despite the best education that we can do. So if you're ever with a patient and your patient starts to fall, please do not try to stop their fall. Because what's going to happen? Right? You're going to get hurt, they're going to get hurt, likely worse. So you'll just, if you can guide them down to the floor and then allow them to lay there until you can get help. Maybe put a pillow under their head or whatnot. I had a situation with a gentleman who was very, very stubborn, and he was quite insistent on making his way to the bathroom, and I could see that halfway there he wasn't going to make it, and sure enough, he slipped and he fell, and we sat on the ground together until EMS got there. You can call non-emergent EMS to help right a patient and put them back in the recliner, which is what we did, but we got to know each other quite well. So again, once your patient is on the floor, just call for help and do not try to lift them up despite them saying, well, if you just grab me under the arms here and pull up a little bit, I'll be able to help you out here. Trust me, it doesn't work. We are a restraint-appropriate facility, so we do not use restraints except in the case when it is for the patient's safety. Rarely, if ever, will you see a patient in restraints. When we do have a patient who is combative, who has a lot of agitation, we use companionship sitters who sit bedside with that patient. Sometimes at end of life, patients will get what's called terminal restlessness, and they'll get that feeling that they need to go somewhere. So they'll feel like they need to get out of bed, they need to go to the bathroom, and you cannot reason with a patient when they're in this condition. So just having someone there to help redirect them at that point is very helpful. Any questions about safety? No? All right, we're moving right along. Okay, now we're going to go to disaster preparedness. Again, preparation is important. Know your role. There are emergency preparedness books at each of in our offices, and then also on the wings, in each of the wings. So we're going to talk about notice of severe weather, which is code black. The Care Center response to code black is to close the blinds and windows, move patients away from the doors, turn on the weather radio for updates. We should be removed to an area if a tornado is sighted. That is then a code green. So if you ever think about when weather is especially inclement and you can see the sky starts to turn a little bit green, think about that. And so the staff there will identify where that safe area is going to be. Don't stand in the patient's room to look at the weather. That's quite distressing to the patients. And the administration response to that is that, again, we'll close all windows, follow directions from your manager or supervisor, and prepare that if a tornado is sighted and a green code is announced. So this is a breakdown here of the different codes. Code red, of course, is fire. Code black is severe weather or tornado watch. Code green is a tornado warning. It means that a funnel cloud has been sighted. A code yellow is a bomb threat. Code silver means that there has been somebody with a weapon. If that is the case, and you do hear a code silver, make sure that you run, hide, you call 911, but make sure that you silence your cell phones. A code E means it's evacuation, and this is the day room that we would be evacuated to. Calling Dr. Wolf, this is an instance if we had a patient who was agitated or combative, they would call that overhead, so we knew that we needed to get some assistance there. And a code orange is if there is a person who is missing, and that if that is the case, you'll find people spread out, and they'll give you a description of the person that we're looking for. So if there is lightning and there's an imminent strike, anywhere that you feel the electricity, you'll feel your hair stand on end. Squat low to the ground with the balls of your feet. Place your hands over your ears and your head between your knees, and make yourself the smallest possible target. Do not lay flat on the ground. In a tornado, be alert to the weather-changing systems and look for the following danger signs. Dark, green sky, large hail, dark low-lying cloud, particularly if it's rotating, a loud roar which sounds similar to a train. And if you see any approaching storms, be prepared to take shelter immediately. And again, if you're here in the building and you hear that, there will be a code green prior to that. So if the report of a tornado watch or warning will be made by the weather system, and the Livonia Police Department. And Margot or a designee will assign a member of the staff to watch out for that. And when it's been issued, they will authorize an overhead page. So just know that there's a number of steps that we go through in order to do a code. It just doesn't, somebody's not going to look outside and say, oh, it looks quite bad out there, let's do a code green. When a tornado has been cited, the code green will be announced 3 times. In a snow emergency, we're going to think about our own safety, right? So if you feel that you cannot safely drive to your patient's home or here to the care center, please don't attempt to come to the care center or to your patient's home. Just notify us. Many times, especially with home patients, the caregivers will call us and say, oh Lord, it looks like it's pretty bad out there. We don't want that volunteer driving here, so please call and cancel the visit. So just make sure that you're being safe with the road conditions. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit about workplace violence. It's important to know that anybody who threatens could even be considered workplace violence, even if they don't inflict physical harm. It may be manifested in a number of different ways, but usually it involves yelling, hollering, or physical altercation. All employees and volunteers should always make sure that you're wearing your badge. And students and authorized persons should obtain identification at the reception desk. Please do not, I know we're all very kind and welcoming people, and a lot of times what will happen is somebody will be standing near the staff entrance to come in, and they'll say, oh, can I just come in with you? Sure, come on in. You cannot do that because we have to be sure that that person has clearance. You all know what you had to do to get clearance to come into the building, right? So we want to make sure that everybody else is vetted in the same way. You can just direct them to go to the administrative entrance or go back down to the care center entrance, and our staff will take care of them. All right. So, any questions about safety? All right. So now we'll talk about hazard communication, which is also known as the right to know law. This is for any chemicals. Do you think that we have a lot of chemicals here? Yeah, we do. We do. Many of us have many of these same chemicals in our own house, even with just cleaning, bleach and things of that nature. So the different hazards come in physical, health, the chemical coding system, and the exposure routes. So if you notice that there is a spill or a particular smell, or you see a gas or a cloud of smoke, just assume that that is a chemical or hazardous spill and notify somebody. Do not attempt to clean that up by yourself. Some ways that you can look at that is, of course, by sight. You'll be able to see the pile. You'll be able to taste it. Have you ever come into an area where you just almost taste that chemical smell? It'll be a strange odor. Or you'll also hear a hissing or a dripping sound. Make sure that you wash your hands after handling any hazardous substance. Don't eat or drink in any area that has those substances. These safety data sheets are available in the volunteer workroom, and they are developed by the manufacturer of the chemical, and again, they're available in the care center rooms, in the copy room, all throughout, just in case if you are looking for some hefty reading. So we're going to talk about fire safety. So does anybody know what the fire triangle is? So for a fire to happen, we have to have a fuel, a source, and usually oxygen. So we talk about how many of our patients are on oxygen, quite a few, right? Right. So we always want to be aware of oxygen safety. On this end, when you go to, how many of you are home care volunteers? Okay. So if you go to a home and you don't see the warning oxygen in use sign out on the door, but you go in and your patient is on oxygen, make sure that you let Laura know so that we can make sure that that caregiver has that warning appropriately posted. So when we talk about rescue and fire, we're always going to want to rescue. Remember the RACE acronym? I'm sure that you all know what the RACE stands for. Let's say it together. Rescue, alert, contain or confine, and extinguish. Very good. So all of the electrical equipment that comes into the building is inspected by our information technology to make sure that it's safe. So please, on your own, do not bring in heaters or fans or anything else like that. We do have fire extinguishers. We have ABC, which handles all types of fires, and AK, which is for trash or grease fires.
ABC
And they
AK?
spread a distance of about 10 to 15 feet. Do you all remember the acronym for the fire extinguishers? All right, here we go. P, A, S, S. All right, sweet, very good. All right, and of course we never want to rehang a used fire extinguisher. All right, we're coming through here. So any questions about fire safety? No? All right, now we're going to talk about HIPAA. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It was created to improve access to health insurance when a person starts a new job or loses a job, to protect the privacy of healthcare information, and to promote the standardization of the electronic healthcare record. High-tech, this is a new one. So high-tech is for economic and clinical health, and it was signed into Act into 2009, and it's to promote the adoption and meaningful use of health information and technology. And as you know, most of our patient records, all of our patient records, are on electronic medical records, as are your own personal records, I'm sure. So always remember, when we're sharing information, that we want to use the minimum necessary standard, right? If you are visiting with a patient, it's not necessary for you to know every detail about that patient's medical history or that maybe family dynamics. You only need what you need to be effective in your role. Use your professional judgment and use safeguards. If you are visiting a patient and you have the information in your car, make sure that it is tucked away out of sight and locked away. If you have information at your house, make sure that it's in a file cabinet or somewhere that is not accessible by family members. And be aware of your surroundings. This is very important. It's very natural for us to want to talk about our patients and our experiences. But do you think that that's something we should be doing openly? No, no. We should always be mindful of who it is that we're talking to, and do they have a right to hear the information? If I volunteer with James Johnson and another volunteer does not volunteer with James Johnson, they have no need to know the information about James. If we think about our own healthcare information, and if somebody had access to that and we found out that strangers were sharing that information, that would not feel good. So please be very, very mindful of that when you're talking about your patients. And always remember that it is against our policy to text, email, or send photos of any patients or of their electronic medical records. Certainly you're not going to take a picture of your patient and post it on Facebook. So how many of you have cell phones? Unanimous. Okay, you are awake. So make sure that you turn off your ringer and you set it to vibrate. Let unimportant calls go to voicemail. And if you do have to use your phone, please step out to someplace quiet. You can step out into the cafeteria, you can step outside of the building, but please don't do so where it's going to be disruptive. And never use your cell phone in a restroom. In the care center, we ask you to please do not even bring your cell phone in. We had one situation where, we can all understand how innocently this will happen if you're out in public with somebody and they say, oh, can you take my picture? Sure, and you take their phone or you use their phone and I'll send it to you, I'll text it to you, and you take a picture of them. However, in this case it was a patient who asked one of our volunteers to do it. Her phone didn't take pictures, but the volunteer's phone did, so she took a picture of her and then sent it to her. But that's not appropriate because that's her electronic health information. So we do not ask you, it's too tempting, we ask you not to bring your cell phones into the care center. And remember that if there is any intentional breach of confidentiality, that it's grounds for immediate termination. Again, we talked about make sure that you ask yourself, why am I sharing this information? Do they need to know this? And if it's not purposeful, it is gossip. So I know that you all have the confidentiality policy. And you understand that if you violate them, that you could be terminated. By a nod of heads, yes? Yes, thank you. We're going to talk briefly about elder abuse. As they become more frail, the patients are more susceptible to abuse. Our society is doing much better at being aware of this type of abuse, which can come in physical, mental, and financial form, and sexual. There's usually frequent arguments or tension between the caregiver, so if you go to a home setting and you notice that, please let us know. If there's changes in the personality or behavior, now sometimes you might have a patient who is a little bit confused and they might say to you, my son stole my car. But really what happened was his son had to take away his car because it wasn't safe. But we don't know that, right? So please report that to us and we will look into it. Certainly if you notice any bruises or pressure marks or anything out of the ordinary, please let us know. Please report that as well. If you notice that your patient no longer wants to interact, or you just notice some behavior and concerning comments that they've made, again, please, you're our eyes and ears out there. It's very important that you share that information with us. So if you are with a patient and you suspect abuse, call triage. And if you are with a patient and you're kind of suspecting that that's going on, but you're not certain, please let Laura, myself, or Melena know, and we will look into it. Trust your instincts. I think that's what should guide us. We're going to talk a little bit about our corporate policy and compliance and our code of conduct, that we are an equal opportunity provider and we respect the dignity of all members of Angela Hospice, and that we maintain appropriate levels of confidentiality, and that we maintain a relationship of integrity with each payer source. This is our mission statement, dedicated to provide comprehensive, compassionate, and Christ-like care. We're going to go quickly through, I'm not sure what time it is here. Yep, got just a few minutes here. Our respect for human dignity, reverence for and commitment to promoting and protecting dignity of all persons, that we always greet people, we're courteous in all of our actions, and we show appreciation to staff members and fellow volunteers, that we're positive and cooperative workforce, that we protect personal and confidential information, that we're all compassionate, and I know each and every one of us here in this room are compassionate, caring people, that we show respect, we are truthful in our communication, we are considerate and empathetic of others, and that we support our co-workers and co-volunteers by helping with workload. So when Helen puts that shout out for help, we're right there. And that we have a sincere giving approach. Transformation, it encourages an open mind and heart and leads to continuous improvement of the person and of our ministry. We welcome feedback to improve performance. We view change as an opportunity to improve, supportive management decisions, and we strive to exceed his or her job. So as you're doing your volunteer role and you identify what may be a better way to do something, let us know. You're the ones out there doing it, so let us know if you think that there's a way to improve that. Solidarity with the poor, ensuring the needs of the poor and the vulnerable are met through our advocacy and through our action. We always seek opportunities to help others, and we do so without any discrimination. We advocate for those who need us the most. Justice and peace, for forging right relationships and creating sustainable environment, and for the common good in pursuit of peace. That we promote all interactions with honesty and integrity, we treat others fairly, and that we provide regular feedback for problems and solutions, and that we always look at each decision and bring it back to our mission and values, and that we do not participate in gossip and rumors. Are gossip and rumors ever helpful to anyone? No, they're not. They're very hurtful. And that we accept diversity in the workplace. So now we are going to take a few minutes. Does everybody have a pen? Okay, so let's go ahead and take the test if you've not done it. And this is your proof of attendance today. So number 1, infection control. According to the CDC, all bodily fluids and sweat are potentially infectious. True or false? Infection can only spread if there's a germ, a source, an exit, a host, and an entry. True or false? Infection can be transmitted through mucous membranes such as the eyes. True or false? Mm-hmm. Use of hand sanitizer is more effective than washing hands with soap and water. Hepatitis B is a type of blood-borne virus. True. Fire and safety. Code black means that there's a fire and you must report back to your station. False. It's weather. Angela Hospice has 2 types of fire extinguishers, FGH and AK. False. ABC. If you see a spill of an unknown substance, you should immediately clean it up, even if you don't have gloves. False. Volunteers don't need to be concerned about emergency preparedness. And a substance is only considered hazardous if it has a toxic smell. Right. And we already did the race in the past, so you know what those are. You're all going to get gold stars on the way out today. The HITECH Act was established to make HIPAA laws more complex and difficult to comply with. False. You may take a photo of a patient using your personal cell phone only if they ask you to. False. It's appropriate to friend or connect with patients and family members because you can support them when you're not with them. As a volunteer, you're required to comply with the Angela Hospice confidentiality policy. And you may use your cell phone in the care center as long as you step out of a patient's room. Workplace violence. Threats can only be considered workplace violence. If you're a long-term volunteer, you don't need to wear your badge because everyone knows who you are. It's appropriate to let visitors in through the staff entrance as long as you take them to the lobby area. If you suspect elder abuse, you should talk to the family member or caregiver so you can educate them on how to properly care for the patient. Elder abuse does not involve a patient's financial situation. Very good. So all we need for you to do is make sure that your name is on there, and then also on the pink form here, make sure that your name is printed and signed there as well. All right, so now if I can have your attention, I'm going to ask Marty and Margot to come up. Yep, I couldn't see you back there. Marty and Margot to come up for just a minute. I know that we've had some, it's not very often that we all have time to kind of gather and ask questions. And you're invested in your role here at Angela Hospice. So I've asked Marty and Margot to come here today to kind of provide a Q&A session for you if you have any questions that you want to ask either of them, want to know kind of the state of the union, whatever that might be. So they're going to take a few moments just to take your questions.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Not only do you provide care to our patients and our families, help us to stay in regulatory compliance. And that's what you're doing this afternoon. And without doing this, we honestly couldn't do the rest of it. Because if there's one thing we live and breathe, it's regulations. I'd like to introduce Marty Copley for those of you who have not had a chance to meet Marty. Marty just celebrated her 1-year anniversary with us. Woohoo! And I'm actually going on 2 years. Wow is right. Time flies, doesn't it? So I didn't know that when you take a test, everybody shouts the answer out. Like, is that really a test then? Like when you get the answers? So I have a test question for you. What is the one constant in your life that is definitely a constant at Angela Hospice? Change. 100% change. Absolutely. And we live it and we breathe it here. Not only is there change just internally in our organization, you know, we started out with one woman who had a vision and who lived and breathed that vision until Sister Giovanni, until it became a reality. And from that one person, we have now grown to 240 employees. And from one patient who she talked to the daughter in the checkout line of the grocery store, if you've ever heard this story before. And in speaking to that one woman and in taking care of her mother, we now take care of about 250 patients a day. And last year provided care to for 88,000 days of care. We could not do one moment of that care without you. Each and every one of you contribute in such a significant way, not only to the lives of our patients, but also to the lives of our families, to the lives of our team members who you work alongside with, but also to the life of us as an organization. When Sister Giovanni started hospice 31 years ago, it was 100% nonprofit. Today, there's only 23% of us nationally that are nonprofit. The rest are all for-profit. And the regulatory environment that we live in as an industry, as a hospice industry, becomes more and more challenging all the time, and the reimbursement challenges for us become more significant as time marches on. So you provide wonderful support, not just to our patients and families, but to us as an organization. You're the face of who we are out there. But you also provide a significant financial resource to us. Your hours, if we needed to pay for an individual to do the work that you do, would be well over $500,000 a year. One vote for a raise. You'll get paid on the other end. Not here. So that $500,000, let me tell you that if you were not here and we had to pay people to do the wonderful things that you do, we couldn't do it. We just absolutely couldn't do it as an organization. So thank you for that. Since the one constant in our life is change, I wanted to just open this up to you and not give you a spiel about anything, but open it up to questions that you might have about changes that you see in the organization. Whether it's the piano in the great room, whether it is how we're doing something, how we do financially, any question at all, there's nothing off limits. Ooh. Any questions? I hear a lot of comments. I hear a lot of questions about different things. So this is probably the opportunity to ask those things. Yes?
Can you say the great room?
That's what we call the great room, sure, yep. So we actually have 2 pianos now. We had one that was donated to us by a lovely family. I trolled Craigslist for a while, and I'd send out a little note when people had a grand piano for sale and say, we have a hospice and our patients would love to enjoy the music, could you donate it to us? And I didn't get any responses out of the 30, 40 that I sent out, but I did get one response, and that's all that counts, right? And this lovely family who had no connection with us whatsoever said we would love to have our piano there. So that was the original piano that was donated, and then Bart Wingblade donated a second piano to us, which has an auto player on it so that it can play by itself like a player piano thing, and that has been donated as well. So just to give you an example of the kinds of things I hear that a lot of people say, why did we put a piano in the great room? It's not like we're a lounge. Why do we have cookies and drinks out there? People can just go to the family kitchen and get that. Why did you have to bother doing that? So one of the comments that we receive, you know, we get these surveys. One of the things that regulations do for us is it has forced us, not really forced, but yes, it has forced us or we don't get paid. Okay, so we get forced to send out these questionnaires through a third party. Okay, so it's not like we're sending the questionnaires out ourselves on patient satisfaction. The families fill those out. It goes back to the third party who puts all the data together and then sends it to Medicare. Now, all of that data is soon, this coming spring, is going to be available online for everyone to see. So people are going to be making decisions. But one of the frequent comments that I got, and I know this myself, and many of you know this from your experience at the old care center, when we were over here, right? That's when I was a volunteer 14, 15 years ago. And one of the comments was that we had so much camaraderie together. Families came out, they collected in that tiny little kitchen that was there. There was always food, people gathered. They came out of the rooms and they saw each other and they connected and they were there to help support each other. And how much they really missed that with the new care center. And it's true, those 3 distinct wings don't really allow for that opportunity to share. And a lot of folks just really don't venture real far past the patient rooms, okay? They don't really go out looking for the family dining, those kinds of areas. So that is why we put in the coffee and the water and some cookies, just to encourage folks to come out, to meet each other, to sit down, to share, to support each other, okay? Yes?
Margot, I can vouch for that because I have patients, families where well, I don't want to go to the family kitchen. So we got coffee and cookies up there. That was great. Like you said, it's not far from the patient's room and they can get what they want from the doctor.
Yep, they feel almost like they're still in earshot of where they need to be in case the nurse calls them or something. And it's a great piece. I've seen a lot of folks kind of congregate around there. We moved the playroom, put it so it was real accessible, and so that families can actually see the playroom and watch their children rather than having it around the corner with absolutely no visibility. So I'm glad to hear that. Any other questions? Yes, Liam.
Well, being a financial person, how are our finances and how are we doing?
So actually, I'm glad you asked, Liam. So, because this is always something people have a lot of questions about. I heard we're losing money, I heard we're making a lot of money. Well, in the nonprofit world, okay, you never really make money, right? Whatever we make, we put right back into the care that we provide. And we're very proud of the fact that as a faith-based nonprofit, we do that. We're not getting a bonus. Marty's not, well, Marty gets a big bonus. I don't get a bonus, but Marty does. I'm kidding.
My bonus is being here.
So financially, when I first came almost 2 years ago, unfortunately, we were very distressed. Meaning that we were in a position where our future was tenuous at best. I hope that that's something that you never knew. I hope it's something that you were not aware of. But you are aware now, is that we were in a position where we may need to look at becoming a part of another organization, consolidating in some way, some of those types of things. We were very fortunate that we were able to make some significant operating changes without releasing any team members. In fact, we have grown our staff, not decreased in any way. We've had no layoffs, etc. And through marketing and through the engagement of all of us and a real focus on making admissions happen within 24 hours or as quickly as the patients needed them, we were able to grow ourselves as an organization quite quickly. And in that first year, we were able to bank about $900,000. Okay, so that was great, almost $1 million. First time in 30 years that we had ever seen anything on the positive side financially. And then this past fiscal year, we did about close to 800, about 750,000. So we have taken that money now and banked it in our investments, and we know now that we have financially, we have a solid base to begin to move forward as an organization, okay? To move forward as an organization, to grow what we do, to remain viable, to remain current, all of those things, does require us to spend money, right? Marketing is a part of that. A lot of it is getting a team of folks out there to work with the doctors, work with the referral sources, etc. It's a very complicated and competitive industry that we're in now. So we feel blessed that we know that we are moving forward as an organization and that we now have the financial stability to be able to do that. Okay? Thank you, Leah. So you all still have a job. How's that? No raise, sorry. Back to that again, no raise. Yes.
I've been here at Amazon for 24 years. I'm a home care volunteer. And they have monthly meetings, home care meetings that are great. And you people that are home care and you don't come to these meetings, you're missing out. Even though you don't have a patient at the time that you're having a problem with her, you learn so much from other people's stories. And they're really, really worth coming to. I really recommend you guys to come. Very nice.
So that was an encouragement for everyone to participate in home care meetings. We also have care center support meetings, etc. It's a great time to share, not just with the team members professionally, what they're doing so that you have the same information, but also to share information about specific to certain patients that you're seeing, what their needs are, what their challenges are, all of those kinds of things. So we would encourage you to attend as many of those as possible. Yes?
Was there any more update, or was it all put in the newsletter about how the AOD came out and reviewed the chapel and now it's been moved and modified?
Yes, I appreciate you bringing that up. See, a lot of these things I just wasn't going to bring up unless someone brought them up. So the chapel has been a source of great buzz around here, and for good reason. So you may not know this, but we found out that we were never an approved chapel, interestingly enough. So the only reason we realized that is because we had called the Archdiocese, because right now in the care center, we're about 30 to 40% Catholic, the balance of which are non-Catholic. And of course, as a part of our mission, you understand that we are to serve anyone who needs our care. And we do that from a Christian Catholic heart. That is our mission. And so we called him out because we had had a family that requested to have a service in the chapel. And what we had been doing was removing the host, putting it in the sacristy, okay, until the service or whatever was over, then pushing it back out. So we called the Archdiocese, we were not comfortable with that, who came out and said, well, you don't have to ask us anything because you're really not an approved chapel. So immediately the scramble is on for how do we get our chapel approved, okay? So the Archdiocese in the visit and coming out made the recommendation that we do a small private or what could be called an adoration chapel, okay? So that is what we are in the process of creating. The host has not actually moved there yet, but we did receive a letter from the Archdiocese that effective October 4th, it is now the St. Francis Chapel, St. Francis of Assisi Chapel, which is beautiful. And we are in the process of finishing the work on it. We're doing some woodwork, etc. The tabernacle, thank you, little block. The tabernacle is being sent out to be replated, a couple of those kinds of things. We want to make sure that everything is beautiful and everything is ready. So that the Adoration Chapel or the small chapel will be private for you if you wish it to be. Many of our families, especially going through struggles, etc., wish to spend private time in the chapel. It'll have doors that you can pull to close. If not, open the doors and we have, again, a large chapel, all completely approved by the Archdiocese. So we're very grateful for the support of the Archdiocese who actually donated to us the chapel, the eternal light, many of the pieces that are in there that came from closed congregations. So what a beautiful reuse of that. Did that answer your question? Thank you so much for asking that. Any other questions? Yes? Yes. Absolutely, 100% the library is for everyone. The question is, can we use the library? The library is for everyone, staff, volunteers, patients, families, whoever. You are welcome to take a book, and you're welcome to bring it back, etc. If you bring new books, just clear it with Marty, because Marty is putting stickers on them and keeping track and all that kind of stuff. So, oh, sorry, Melina is doing that. Sorry. Yes. Did everyone read the article in the Monarch? Was it beautiful? Yeah, it's amazing what one person can do, right? Look at what she accomplished. Amazing. By the way, you don't have to stay from my part of the talking. You can get up and leave. Sandy. So it's the old choir members I used to sing with that are the first to abandon the room, okay? So thank you so much, Jennifer. Okay, girls. Any other questions? If you're leaving, just do so quietly, please, so that others who have questions can stay. Yes?
About the TB and flu.
TB and flu, I'll turn that right over.
If you are in need of your TB test and you received a letter, we are going to be having a clinic in the infection control office. We have paperwork up here. And then if you want to get your flu shot as well, the paperwork is up here. Go ahead and start completing it and then head to the infection control office. Oh, okay, the clinic's coming to us. Woohoo! All right, any other questions?
You can turn your questions into the back of the room, and the flu clinic is coming here, and is here. I see it. Yes. Yes, the flu shot is mandatory for anyone who is working here in the facility. The reason for that is the CDC does make it a requirement for all healthcare workers, and you are considered to be a healthcare worker because you work in a healthcare environment. Okay? December 1st. I think I lost control completely.